Once again, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. As always, I am Zak the Corruption Detector, and this is another edition of Red Pill News. I hope you are having a lovely day and that you've had a marvelous afternoon as well. Now, first of all, we're going to be talking about a tweet President Trump put out last night, which set something into motion, because today he signed a memo which stands to defund New York City and 3 other cities with out-of-control rioting and anarchy. These are for the cities run by Democrats that don't want to keep their voters safe, and if President Trump has anything to do with it, they're going to lose their federal funding as a result. Now, we've also got a statement from Nancy Pelosi in regards to her debacle at the Salon the other day. Nancy Pelosi has special rules because she is a leader in the Democratic Party, and as a result, the owner of the Salon is the target of outrage and death threats. She is going to have to relocate her business. Now, last week it was Jim Gaffigan. This week it is Patton Oswalt. We have another Hollywood celebrity baby meltdown, and we're going to be talking all about that. Also, Sarah Carter is now reporting that those State Department memos which detail the spying of American citizens, both journalists and Trump supporters, by the Ukrainian embassy under Marie Yovanovitch have been released, and we're going to go over them in detail. We'll also be checking in on the situation in New York City. You're not going to recognize it. New York has come a long way. And then we have a thread from Carlos Azuita. There is evidence, unfortunately, to point to the fact that Patriot Prayer member Aaron J. Danielson was executed in the streets of Portland by an Antifa death squad. That's right, you heard me right. And finally, the debate moderators for the debates between President Trump and Sleepy Joe Biden have been decided, and wouldn't you know it, every single one of them is a hater of the president. So we're going to go over all this and more. Please do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a very brief word from our sponsor. There's one diet that people everywhere swear by. I use it myself, you've probably heard of it. It's called keto. Keto is being praised around the world because it's wildly effective at boosting metabolism, elevating energy, and enhancing mental focus. But for many, it's an extremely difficult diet to follow. Some experts agree it isn't even sustainable in the first place because it requires cutting out delicious carbs like bread, pasta, and fruit. It's not easy. If you want the benefits of elevated ketone levels without having to actually do the difficult part of the keto diet, you're going to want Keto Elevate. Keto Elevate is the most advanced MCT powder on the market today because it only provides you with pure C8, which is the most ketogenic of all MCTs, and it fuels you with quick, clean, natural energy. Keto Elevate powerfully supports ketone production whether you follow the keto diet or not. That's right, it can help elevate ketone levels even without the strict no-carb policy. You can get your own bag today for 51% off plus free shipping by going to ketowithredpill.com, or you can visit the link in the description or pinned comment below. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Alright guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all, today we're going to be talking about this awesome new tweet from President Trump. 17 hours ago, he said, "My administration will do everything in its power to prevent weak mayors and lawless cities from taking federal dollars while they let anarchists harm people, burn buildings, and ruin lives and businesses. We're putting them on notice today." And then he tagged Russ Vote 45. Now, President Trump, obviously referring to the massive unrest taking place all across the country, he has offered federal assistance in many different forms to all of these Democrat mayors and governors, and unilaterally they have all turned him down. Well, this is a tool in his arsenal that he has the ability to use. Why should we give federal funding to these cities if they don't want help from the federal government? They want to act like their own little lawless fiefdoms? I say allow them to do it. People are leaving these Democrat-run cities in droves, and I think this is only going to push them out the door faster. Ted Wheeler himself famously just moved out of his condo after his peaceful protesters set it on fire. Even Ted Wheeler sees the writing on the wall. However, most people in these cities probably don't have the means or the ability to go ahead and just pick up and move someplace else. Imagine having to leave your possessions. Imagine having to abandon your home. Well, this is what the Dem mayors and governors are essentially forcing their citizens to do, and President Trump is going to help them out just a little bit more. Let's go ahead and take a look at the reporting. So today, President Trump has officially signed a memo to defund New York City and 3 other cities with out-of-control rioting and anarchy. Now, what this memo does is order federal agencies to defund anarchist jurisdictions, including New York City, Seattle, and Portland, 3 of the worst offenders that have been raging for months. President Trump tweeted that out last night, and then today he has ordered the federal government to begin processing of defunding New York City and these other 3 cities, where officials have allowed lawless protests and cut police budgets amid rising violent crime. Totally a counterintuitive move. Now, Trump on Wednesday signed this 5-page memo ordering all federal agencies to send reports to the White House Office of Management and Budget that detail funds that can be redirected to cities who are going to be more appreciative. New York City, Washington, D.C., Seattle, and Portland are the initial targets that President Trump wants to make a law and order centerpiece of his re-election campaign after months of unrest and violence following the May situation with George Floyd and Minnesota police. Quite frankly, enough is enough. This is a brilliant move on behalf of President Trump, and considering the fact that these Democrat mayors and governors don't care about President Trump offering the assistance, then why should they care about the federal funding coming from a variety of agencies? If they don't want to fund their law enforcement and they're taking those law enforcement funds and diverting them into other programs that aren't going to keep their citizens safer, then I suppose that we should just remove the funding from those programs altogether. And then mayors like Ted Wheeler, governors like Kate Brown, they can go ahead and figure it out themselves. I'm sure Muriel Bowser is not too happy about it because the protesters came for her last night as well. That's right, after dark, I believe close to midnight, rioters showed up and they demonstrated right outside her front door. I bet you Chicago is going to be next on the list, and we'll see if these mayors want to turn the situation around given their lack of federal funding coming in for them to rob and pillage. Now, just in case you are not a resident of one of these cities where law and order has devolved into absolute chaos, I want to show you this clip from New York City, because this is the kind of situation that President Trump is asking these Democrat mayors and governors to address, and they refuse to address it. Let's take a look at what New York City looks like today. Wow, the Big Apple. This is what New York is like. Can you imagine being a resident of one of these buildings and looking down and watching in abject horror as a crowd of people come and destroy your vehicle, or as people are robbed before your very eyes and you can't do anything about it because there are no cops because they've been defunded? Or what if you were this person in the car right here trying to make your way down the street and getting pulled out of your vehicle? Look at that. They are robbing this dude in real time. And maybe they are robbing the people who are robbing them, getting chased down. It looks like somebody got dropped right there. Hammer came down. I would certainly not want to be a resident of New York City right now, and considering that they are about to lose all federal funding, I want to say it's going to get worse before it gets better. Now, Governor Cuomo has responded to President Trump's decision to sign this memo and to defund these areas of lawlessness. And in true Democrat fashion, Governor Cuomo has made an incredibly stupid statement. He threatened the president after the announcement of this memo signing. He said he better have an army to protect him if he comes to NYC. Even though I expect statements like this to come out of the Dems, I'm still shocked on a daily basis, the world that we're living in, that we are in a time and place where the governor of one of the largest and most populous states in our union feels comfortable enough to threaten the safety and security of the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief. I certainly hope that the Secret Service looks into this one. Now, he threatened President Trump after this memo signing, and he went off on Trump saying that he better have an army if he comes to New York, and he can't have enough bodyguards. That definitely sounds like a direct threat to the president. Secret Service, please, I hope you're paying attention. This violent rhetoric is somehow allowed in this country today, and it is no longer outside the norm. It is something that we expect to see on a regular basis. Where is Attorney General Bill Barr? Is he paying attention to the situation? The NYPD may disagree with Governor Cuomo. Of course, they're not happy about the situation. They want to do their jobs, but they've been hamstrung by these Democrat leaders. Now, after the signing, Cuomo called an emergency press briefing within a half an hour of the signing of that memo, which also also cited New York City's rising murder rate and the defunding of the NYPD. Now, the full quote is, "He better have an army if he thinks he's going to walk down the street in New York. New Yorkers don't want to have anything to do with him," the Democrat governor said. And that, to me, seems like an absolute all-out threat. Cuomo, who, like Trump, hails from Queens, wasn't done. He said he can't have enough bodyguards to walk through New York City. People don't want to have anything to do with him. It looks like anyone going to New York City might need a bodyguard based on that footage we just watched. If you're a resident of one of these cities that is under siege at this very moment, I want to hear from you in the comments below. I want to hear from you if you do not feel safe walking down the street. I want to hear from you if you felt threatened in your neighborhood, if you've had people come to your door, if you've had your business or your home looted or burned, if your car has been stolen. Put your stories in the comments below. And I think I want to try to make a video showing what it's like to live in one of these areas. And then perhaps we can send it over to Governor Cuomo. With the draconian shutdown order of California Governor Newsom, many businesses are in a very, very bad spot, especially salons, restaurants, places where you might often come into close contact with other people. Now, I showed the video yesterday of Senator Nancy Pelosi visiting a salon that was supposed to be closed. The employees of that salon were wearing masks. She was not wearing a mask. It makes you wonder, what does she know that we don't? But unfortunately, it wasn't a surprising sight. Democrats often have rules for you, but not for them. So Nancy Pelosi, based on her prestige, power, and position, was able to have this salon owner open up special just so she could go in and have her hair done. Now, there was security footage that was leaked out, which showed Nancy Pelosi maskless inside the salon alone with the employees of the salon. And once that footage was released, Nancy Pelosi had no choice but to make a public statement. And of course, like a total sociopath, she blamed the salon owners instead of herself, and also claimed ignorance of the rules surrounding the shutdown and the state of California. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
I take responsibility for trusting the word of a neighborhood salon that I've been to over the years many times, and that when they said, well, we're able to accommodate people one person at a time, and that we can set up that time, I trusted that. As it turns out, it was a setup. So I take responsibility for falling for a setup. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
So is Nancy Pelosi asking us to believe that the owner of this salon reached out to her directly and told her that they could open up the salon for one person at a time? It seems far more likely that Nancy Pelosi would have reached out herself and asked the salon to break the quarantine and shutdown rule and give her special treatment. Now, she also takes full responsibility. She takes full responsibility for being played like a moron. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. The goal here is for Nancy Pelosi to push the blame onto somebody else, namely the owner of the salon, thereby absolving her of the ignorance of the rules in California. Now, everyone in California is well aware of the rules, especially the business owners. It makes me wonder, how did that footage get out? Did the owners of the salon go ahead and release it? Was it an employee? Or perhaps was it through a security services agency that got a hold of the tapes? Well, as far as it goes right now, we don't know, but it really has highlighted the hypocrisy of the ruling elite, and more specifically, the Democratic machine. With Senator Nancy Pelosi placing the blame of her choice to ask a salon to open so that she could receive special consideration and not wear a mask in public, the poor owner of that San Francisco salon is now the target of outrage and death threats, and she's going to be forced to relocate her business. The San Francisco salon owner's name is Erica Kios. She is a single mother and owner of E Salon in San Francisco. She was railroaded by Nancy Pelosi this week after the footage was released showing a maskless Pelosi getting her hair done in the shuttered salon. Now, today, the White House press secretary Kayleigh McEnany also shared a clip of that maskless Nancy Pelosi footage, showed it over and over and over again to highlight the incredible hypocrisy on display in the left. Now, Kios is the target of death threats and is going to be forced to relocate her business. With this video being released yesterday, it shows one thing: only little people have to follow the rules. Nancy Nancy is too important. She does not need to wear a face mask, and businesses are forced to open even in the midst of a pandemic shutdown. Not only that, but Nancy Pelosi demanded that the salon owner apologize to her. That's right, you heard that right. Nancy Pelosi wants Erica to apologize to her for opening up and allowing her to come in and get her hair done in the midst of this shutdown, and for not having to make her wear a mask. There has been a GoFundMe set up for Erica by Amy Tarkanian. She's the wife of Danny Tarkanian, a Republican who's run for office in Nevada. And in the description of that GoFundMe, Amy says, Erica Kios, a single mother of two and owner of E-Salon, where House Speaker Nancy Pelosi got her hair done on Monday, is now being forced to shut down and relocate her business and family due to outrage and threats she is receiving. Tarkanian said that Erica is having others pack up her belongings because she fears returning to the salon. Let the business owners of San Francisco beware. If you receive a call from the Speaker of the House or anyone else in the Democratic Party leadership who want you to open your business for a special consideration, definitely do not do it, because if they get caught, then they will make you the target of the ire and scorn of the entire Democrat community there in their home district. Well, here is an interesting story, a Me Too moment being brought up by the Secret Service. They've inadvertently confirmed the Gateway Pundit's story about Uncle Joe Biden assaulting an agent's girlfriend. Now, back in 2017, Gateway Pundit exclusively reported that a Secret Service agent was suspended for a week back in 2009 for shoving then Vice President Joe Biden. What did he do? Well, he cupped his girlfriend's breast while the couple was taking a photo of him in classic Uncle Joe fashion. The situation got so heated, a source who was a Secret Service agent at the time told Gateway Pundit that others had to step in to prevent the agent from hitting the then Vice President. Speaking on the condition of anonymity, the agent asserted, "We had to cancel the VP Christmas get-together at the Vice President's house because Biden would grope all of our wives' and girlfriends' rear ends. The annual party was for agents and Navy personnel who were tasked with protecting the Biden family." Now, the Secret Service has inadvertently confirmed that report to Judicial Watch of all places, who have filed a lawsuit after the Secret Service failed to respond to a July 14th, 2020 administrative appeal challenging its claim that all files related to the 2009 altercation had been destroyed due to retention standards. From that Judicial Watch FOIA request, all records related to a reported incident in 2009 in which a United States Secret Service agent reportedly was involved in an altercation with or attempted to strike then Vice President Joe Biden during a photo opportunity. The records sought shall include, but not be limited to, witness statements, the agent's statement, victim statements, alleged perpetrator statements, incident reports, investigative reports, communications among Secret Service personnel regarding the incident, and disciplinary records related to the incident for the agent in question. In a July 13th, 2020 response to that request, the Secret Service appeared to confirm that a file on the alleged incident existed at some point, asserting there are no responsive records or documents pertaining to your request in our files because the above-mentioned files have been destroyed due to retention standards. The Secret Service added, no additional information is available. Now, it's important to note that it did not deny the incident had occurred. In its lawsuit, Judicial Watch intends to test the Secret Service's assertion that it destroyed all records about the incident. We had not been able to confirm whether the report about the alleged altercation might be true until the Secret Service itself suggested it destroyed records about the incident. And that's from Tom Fitton. Wow, Joe Biden groping the girlfriend of a U.S. Secret Service agent, one of the brave men who was tasked with keeping the vice president safe while he was in office. Unfortunately, this is another situation where I am not particularly surprised. I would be very surprised if there were no additional situations like this that exist. I'm sure that Joe Biden has had his hands all over a wide variety of women throughout his years in office. I mean, we've seen it firsthand with videos of him, children, adolescents, teenage girls, and adult women. You know that this is not the only time that something like this happened. I think the only way we can get the information about it, though, is to get specific circumstances such as this. I'd like to see what else pops up here in this situation. Patton Oswalt, a Hollywood creepster under intense scrutiny by people in the research movement, has launched an unhinged anti-Trump tirade, saying, "We are living in Donald Trump's curdled reality, now and forever, occupying headspace completely for free, Trump and the Patriot movement." Now, during the RNC, Jim Gaffigan launched into a bizarre tirade against the president, and now he isn't the only Hollywood comedian to experience this Trump-induced panic in the past week. Patton Oswalt launched into an angry social media tirade just yesterday in which he attempted to psychoanalyze the president, claiming that the commander-in-chief takes pleasure in other people's unhappiness. I would say that nothing could be farther from the truth. We are literally living in Donald Trump's curdled reality now and forever. The joy comes from seeing how miserable everyone else is. Well, perhaps seeing how miserable the liberals are, because they want nothing more than to destroy society and this country. And with President Trump in office, America is thriving. Now, Oswalt posted his tirade along with a photo of President Trump conducting a teleconference. It remains unclear what exactly triggered the comedian's diatribe. For Gaffigan, it was the RNC speech President Trump gave on the White House Rose Garden lawn, but it appears to have something to do with continued coronavirus quarantines and lockdowns. Donald forced America to live in the only reality he's comfortable in. Everyone's huddled at home, watching TV, eating takeout food, clumsily promoting themselves on Zoom and TikTok just to stay alive. The only people allowed outside are the people he never sees or acknowledges, the ones who replace the water bottle and cedar shavings in the hamster pen he loves. Now, Oswalt even went so far as to compare President Trump to the fame-obsessed protagonist Rupert Pupkin in Martin Scorsese's The King of Comedy. The sports that are played in empty stadiums full of cutouts like Rupert Pupkin's basement, which is how Donald interacts with the world in his mind. Oswalt appeared to blame the president for the decimation of the creative industries due to the CV-19 sickness, even though the president has been pushing for states to reopen their economies. The mind of the liberal left, there's absolutely no logic to it. He continued, "Artisans, craft, skills, and soul. Hates them, so they're gone. We are literally living in Donald's curdled reality now and forever, and it isn't that he enjoys or hates or even feels anything for endless TV and takeout food and self-promotion and bragging in the place of competence and mastery." He concluded by saying everyone experiences the world the way lonely, spiteful little Donald does, the way he has his whole life, an endless, terrified hustle. Remember last year, Patton Oswalt referred to anyone who supports President Trump as a stupid a-hole, and more recently, he defended the violent Black Bloc rioters, comparing them to American soldiers who landed in Normandy during World War II. Clearly, Patton Oswalt is disconnected from reality and is suffering from Trump Derangement Syndrome. I say let's continue to occupy the headspace of Patton Oswalt rent-free. The only people who are responsible for the things that he is railing against are the Democrats. President Trump wants to open the country. Or better yet, why doesn't he rail against China? It is not called the China virus for nothing. That's where it originated, that's where it began, and that is really who Oswalt ought to blame. Well, if you'll remember, very recently we touched on the fact that the Ukrainian embassy was reported to have been spying on journalists. People like Sarah Carter, people like Sean Hannity, but it's even worse than that. They were also spying on Trump supporters, just average, everyday Americans. Now, Judicial Watch has the State Department records which confirm the Ukrainian embassy under this woman right here, Marie Yovanovitch, a virulent anti-Trumper, was the one who oversaw the spying taking place out of the American embassy in Ukraine. Now, State Department records obtained by Judicial Watch have confirmed what sources told Sarah Carter last October. It was the Ukrainian embassy under the former U.S. Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch that monitored, in potential violation of the law, journalists, a member of President Donald Trump's family, and others they deemed to be allies of the president. Back in October, Judicial Watch issued the FOIA request to the State Department asking for any and all records regarding, concerning, or related to the monitoring of any U.S.-based journalist, reporter, or media commentator by any employee or office of the Department of State between January 1st, 2019 and the present. Now, at this time, Sarah Carter spoke to sources that had confirmed that members of the media, including she and 12 others, were having their social media accounts spied on by members of the Ukrainian embassy. Now, this is against policy, and also it's especially illegal because they were using using taxpayer dollars to do so. Now, with these FOIA requests back in October, all records pertaining to the scope of the monitoring were asked for, and they asked for all of the records of communication between any official, employee, or representative of the State Department. Those records were delivered to Judicial Watch yesterday, and they confirmed what sources had told Sarah Carter last year. A source with knowledge confirmed to Sarah Carter that Yovanovitch, an Obama appointee, had allegedly requested the monitoring of her and others. That is right, Marie Yovanovitch, not simply overseeing the spying, but directly requesting that the spying take place. In one email, many of which are heavily redacted, this one from March 27th of 2019, monitoring developing U.S. social media narratives on Ukraine, the digital team listed the names of those being monitored. And right there, thank you, below some of the Twitter users with large following whom we've seen tweeting on and or discussing on TV Ukraine-related issues over the past several days. They all have verified Twitter accounts that should be pretty easy to spot. And you've got the full list here: Hannity, Ingram, Giuliani, Bongino, Gorka, Solomon, Posobiec, Saavedra, Sarah Carter, Trump Jr., Michael McFaul, Lou Dobbs, and Pamela Geller. Now, in that email, the Ukrainian embassy officials also noted the search phrases that would be used while monitoring the 13 reporters and the Trump allies. Thank you very much for your notes. The English language Twitter search phrases we're currently using for this issue are Yovanovitch, and then Yovanovitch misspelled, Ukrainian ambassador, and Ukraine Soros. Look at that. Yovanovitch was, of course, a career Democrat. She also served at embassies in Kyrgyzstan and Armenia. She was appointed ambassador to Ukraine by Barry in 2016 and was recalled by the State Department this past May. Now, last year, Yovanovitch testified behind closed doors during the House impeachment inquiry against Trump. She was willing to do whatever it took to try to get Trump out of office. This is an incredibly huge story right here. The thing that makes me just pop my eyes the biggest: Ukraine Soros. That tells me proof positive that we have direct involvement with George Soros right there in the Ukrainian embassy. There would be absolutely no reason for the Ukraine embassy to be monitoring Yovanovitch's name, the Ukrainian embassy itself, and Ukraine directly connected to George Soros. I've said many times George Soros has been the funding source behind all of these color revolutions taking place in different parts of the world. There in Ukraine, and now we've got the purple revolution here in America. With this bit of information and the knowledge several days ago that the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security are going after the funding sources for these rioters and this mayhem taking place in large Democrat-run cities, I think it's only a matter of time before they tie it directly back to George Soros. Next, I want to go over this tweet thread from Carlos Azuita. Clearly, he's a very intelligent man. He's a historian, an expert in military strategy. And he begins here by saying, "We'll begin with the tactic that Ted Wheeler and the death squad used to murder Aaron J. Danielson." Now, we have actual footage here. We're not going to watch that. But in the footage, you can hear a first male voice saying, "Move, move, move." And then a second male voice saying, "Hey, enemy clubs over here, we got a couple right here." And then a third male voice asks him. And then the second male voice says, "Pull it out." The third male voice says, "Right here." Then you hear a hissing sound and 2 gunshots. And then a female voice says, "Knocked him off." And the fourth male voice says, "Go, go, go." This is the first death squad in American history, and it's the first time a death squad has been filmed carrying out a murder. Combined a covert surveillance tactic with a military urban combat control tactic. The surveillance tactic is known as the floating box formation. You surround the known target, and in this case, they used it to find a random member of the enemy club and murder him. The military patrol tactic is called a squad double column. The squad splits in two and walks on opposite sides of the street. The 2 people at the front of the double column are called the point men. I call them the scouts because they're looking for targets, not providing security. The 2 at the ends of the double column are lookouts. It was one of these lookouts who shouted, "Go, go, go." It appears from the video that the gunmen and the scouts ran away while the others stayed and did battle damage assessment. Now, viewed from above, we'll say that the Antifa death squad was comprised of column left and column right. The scout at the head of the column left shouted at the gunman to cross the street, which he immediately did, not knowing who to murder. "Move, move, move." The shouting was used to disorient the target. The scout at the head of the column, right, identified the victim, and the gunman murdered him without hesitation. He pulled his pistol when ordered, and he immediately murdered Aaron J. Danielson. Neither Danielson nor his companion had any idea what was happening. From the first move to the gunshots was only 7 seconds. That means they'd worked out exactly how to do this, with the cops visible only seconds away. Carlos says, "I've studied terrorism for 40 years, and I've never seen anything like this. In every other case, death squads are all armed. They attack clandestinely at night, kidnap the victim, and murder him at their leisure before dumping the body. They all travel in vehicles. There's never been a spur-of-the-moment death squad searching for a random victim in real time. I won't burn them, but I counted at least 4 undercover agents at the murder scene. 3 spoke to the cops, but only to select cops. The commander of the police team was a goon. He destroyed evidence and pushed away the medic who was from the Providence Portland Medical Center. It was said on the video. There were undercover surveillance and infiltration, but this has never happened before in the history of our country. The accused murderer is a real piece of work and totally insane. He's fighting for total enslavement. Do you know what the demands of this group are? They want the removal of Trump and Pence from office, the abolishment of all police forces, the abolishment of the prison system and the judiciary, the abolishment of the armed forces, the abolishment of capitalism, the abolishment of private property, and free everything for everybody. These are the demands. Now, it goes on to break down some finer points about it. I encourage you to go ahead and watch this video on your own, because it's absolutely striking when Carlos breaks it down point by point like this. But I would say he's right. These people knew exactly what they were doing. They were organized, they had a plan, and they were searching for someone random to take out, someone on our side. This was not an accident. This was not something that happened between two people getting into an argument. This was simply an innocent man walking down the street, and these terrorists selected him merely because he was a Patriot Prayer member and a follower and supporter of President Trump. I also want to say one more thing. The triggerman himself was eventually identified by his sister. That's right, his sister turned him in. She said that he had been estranged from their family for 3.5 years or so, and she understands that he's very, very sick and that he needs to be punished. All right, and finally, whether or not the debates between President Trump and Joe Biden will happen or not, the moderators have been announced for those debates, and they are all haters of the president. Chris Wallace is definitely on the list. The Commission on Presidential Debates announced the 3 moderators for this year's planned debates, and it's still 50-50 whether or not Joe Biden will even show up. Now, Chris Wallace from Fox News, a major Trump hater, is one of them. Kristen Welker from NBC, another far-left Trump hater, and Steve Scully from C-SPAN plan to moderate this year's debates. Wallace is a complete and utter anti-Trumper. The far-left Fox News host ruined Fox News Sunday and has made it unwatchable. Wallace has attacked President Trump in December, saying, "I believe that President Trump is engaged in the most direct, sustained assault on freedom of the press in our history. He has no idea what's actually going on." Why would Republicans ever agree for Wallace to be a moderator? Well, unfortunately, there are still some elements within the Republican Party who want anyone but Donald Trump in the office of the president. I think that it's going to be a very interesting season here with these debates. And as they said, whether or not Joe Biden shows up, that itself is up for debate. But if he does, man, it is going to be a show to watch. That I know. All right, my friends, that is all I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am Zach the Corruption Detector, and this was another edition of Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, one more thing. I just want to thank everyone for watching today. If you have not subscribed yet, I urge you to please consider subscribing. There will be a couple of videos that pop up if you want to continue to watch. There's also some ways in the description of this video that you can follow me on other platforms. Please consider doing that as well. And if you want to support the program directly, there are means to do that below as well. Thank you all for your support over the last couple of years. Consider liking and sharing this video and help me get the real news to people who don't yet know they've been lied to.